On August 11th, 2018, Mario 64 ROM hacker Kaze Emanuar published what many consider to be his magnum opus, the long-awaited, unofficial sequel to Super Mario 64. No, not Last Impact. No, not Super Mario Stops Climate Change. Waluigi's Taco Stand. In the game, Waluigi gambles at the casino until he has not a single coin to his name. When his landlord, Mr. Rent, demands a rent payment, Waluigi decides to take up a job at Mr. Rent's taco stand. Employed, but desperate, Waluigi must embark across 4 kingdoms to collect taco ingredients that craft the perfect tacos for his customers. Though a short game at only 14 tacos, fans lauded the ROM hack for its creativity and sense of humor. Some players called it the type of stuff Miyamoto wishes he could dream up, and the next evolution in 3D platforming. Sadly, only one physical cartridge of the hack was ever created. And if I know anything about Nintendo's lawyers, they've already found it by now and have dissolved it in the huge vat of acid that Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser keeps in his basement. The collection of Waluigi's perfect taco recipes might just be lost to the ages. Until now, through investigative reporting, I've been able to track down Waluigi and make him answer some questions in an interview, and I was able to acquire his authentic carnitas recipe. Now, a quick disclaimer, there is no single truly authentic way to prepare carnitas. It's a recipe that varies wildly from region to region in Mexico, and even from family to family. While this recipe might differ from your family's, rest assured, it'll blow your socks off, not just with the intensity of the flavor, but with how simple it is to complete. Let's get started. For ingredients, all you need is pork shoulder. I got boneless, but bone-in can be cheaper if you're willing to test your knife skills. White corn tortillas, white onion, lime, cilantro, and salt. No, seriously, that's it. For kitchen supplies, you will need a cutting board and chef's knife, a Dutch oven, a kitchen scale, a large mixing bowl, a frying pan, and a spatula. Start by cutting up the pork shoulder into slightly larger than bite-sized chunks, between an inch and an inch and a half across, or 3 to 5 centimeters. They're going to shrink as they cook down, so make sure to make them just a little bit larger than what you think a choking hazard would be. If you're not good at eyeballing it, you can always use a Kirby amiibo as a reference. Just line up your Kirby amiibo, line your knife right next to his face, and slice. Then transfer your little chunks of meat into a bowl so we can weigh it. If you come across any large pieces of fat in your meat, leave them whole. Those will be a surprise tool that can help us later. Now, to make sure that you use just the right amount of salt, you will need to check the total weight of your meat in grams and find whatever is 1.5% of that. For example, I had this amount of meat, so I weighed out this amount of salt. Make sure to use the 1.5% ratio for however much meat you decide to cook. Once you have your meat and salt ready, transfer both into a Dutch oven. Then, pour water into the pot. Now, the more water you add, the longer it'll take to cook. So pour just enough to barely cover most of the meat. Then crank the heat to medium-high. Now, as the water comes to a boil, 2 things will happen. The salt, water, and meat will combine to make a flavorful pork broth, and the water will render out most of the pork fat. This means that the first hour or so of cooking, our little pork chunks are slowly cooking in a thick, rich, fatty pork broth that's packed with flavor. Now, if in the early stages of boiling you see gunk pile up at the top of the liquid, just scoop it out and throw it away. We won't want those impurities to create an unpleasant texture in the final product. Now, while the meat is cooking, let's wash our cutting board so we can chop the toppings. Let's start by chopping the onion. Start by slicing off the top, not only to make peeling the outside layer easier, but also to give us a flat surface so we can flip the onion upside down and chop the whole thing in half. Then lay the cut side down. Make thin vertical slices from the bottom of the onion to the top of the onion all the way across. Now, if you want more uniform pieces of onion, hold your knife parallel to the chopping board with the blade going into the top of the onion and carefully slice horizontally through to the bottom of the onion. Repeat 1 or 2 more times to create horizontal layers. Now all you need to do is slice vertically, perpendicular to the other vertical slices, and dice away. And just like that, your onion is done. To prepare the cilantro, pick off a few leaves and just roughly chop them into smaller pieces. As you can see, I'm kind of rolling the knife back and forth to get a nice chopping motion. That's a trick that usually works for me. Finally, to prepare your lime, simply slice it into wedges. I cut mine in half and then into quarters. Just like that. Now back to the stove. As the liquid continues to reduce, meaning the water continues to evaporate, what's left behind is a highly concentrated pork broth and salty pork fat. In the last 10 minutes of cooking, this pork fat is going to create a nice shiny sheen all over our meat. At this point, our larger chunks of pork fat rendered all the liquid fat that they can give, so we can fish them out and just forget about them. Just like they're the Chibi Robo franchise. But we're not done yet. Keep reducing the mixture until the only liquid left behind is straight pork flavor and fat. This is where the magic kicks in. You know, YouTube won't actually tell you this, but this stuff is what the like button and subscribe button are made of. Don't believe me? Give them a click and try yourself. Anyways, take a scoop of your carnitas and a little pork fat hitchhiking on the ride and transfer over to a cast iron skillet that's preheated to medium heat. Now, if you can, press down or chop the pieces of meat to create more surface area. This is going to create more crispy bits as the pork fries in its own fat. Cover with a white corn tortilla and let the tortilla steam. After a few minutes, transfer your meat and tortilla to a plate. Now you see those brown crispy bits? That's going to be like a power star to your taste buds. Now top with onions, cilantro, and a squeeze of lime to taste. Bon appetit. Oh, yeah. Now this is a taco that would make Waluigi proud. Take that, Nintendo lawyers. Waluigi still may not be in Smash, but he's gonna smash through your walls just to get a taste of these carnitas. If you liked the recipe, be sure to share it with someone you'd love to eat tacos with. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you for the 1,000 subscriber Wabble Dude special. Stay funky, my friends.